What's up, everyone? Welcome back to the Real Value Exchange. I'm your host, Joe Lemon, and thank you so much for tuning in, where the goal of this show is to turn mere sales transactions into empowering moments. And so if you guys listen to a couple of the previous episodes, I'm slowly gearing my content a little bit more towards my passion, my industry, which is healthcare. And the guy that I'm bringing on today, David Bagga, he is a national medical device and B2B sales coach and a recruiter. He played Division I ball for the University of Arizona. But before we dive into the episode, I want to share a quick clip from a conversation I had with a primary care physician out of Los Angeles, Dr. Peter. And we were at this networking event out of Pasadena. It's Innovation Pasadena. And there's just a lot of great conversations, man, a lot of great contacts so far. So really been enjoying going to that every Friday once I'm in town. But he had a really cool conversation around the rising cost of healthcare and what the real issues are. Check this out.
Profit is 7% of the gross cost of healthcare. Okay. So what happens if the cost of healthcare goes up? Well, they go to the state and they say, our cost went up. And they say, okay, you're going to have a 7% rate increase. And their profit just went up by 7%.
Right.
Now, what can be easier for them than that? They want to expand their business. They want to get more people. Sure. If they cut the cost of healthcare in half, then the folks paying for it can say, well, we're not going to pay you a lower premium. We want to pay a lower premium.
Right.
So they make less money. Tell me a business that wants to cut their profit in half.
And that, to me, lies the fundamental issue with where we are. And this, to me, is definitely one of the reasons why I'm really excited to start producing more and more content around this space, is because healthcare right now it's backwards, obviously, and there's a lot of things that we can dive into from the whole lack of transparency that's going on when it comes to how much you're paying for any type of healthcare service, all the way down to this perverse fee-for-service model that just has the wrong incentives. But anyway, that's for another time. Let's dive into the episode with David Bagga. Enjoy. I want to welcome David Bagga to the Real Value Exchange podcast, man. Thank you so much for jumping on, man.
Well, Joe, thank you so much for having me. First of all, it's an honor, and I'm always happy to help any way I can. I'm a huge fan of anything sales related, anything medical device related. And in terms of being in the car, that's sales, right? You
100%.
Go somewhere when it's important, and you want to get the deal done, close the deal, whatever you can do. So
yeah.
I'm excited, man.
Man, so you know what? Just kind of talking about bouncing around a lot. You're on the phone, I would imagine, as a headhunter, right?
Yeah.
Most of the time.
Yeah. So my typical work week is usually anywhere from 7 or a little before 7 a.m. to about probably like almost 7 p.m.
Wow.
So I'm on the phone minimum about 11 to 12 hours a day.
Really?
Monday through Friday, yeah.
You're getting it in.
Yeah. And so sometimes, without getting like too deep, I'll break up the day during my lunch break and maybe go like run a couple miles on the treadmill or just go get a quick workout in. I think because we're in the age of mobility now.
Yeah.
So, and that's with everything. You hear a lot of people in sports broadcasting talk about player mobility.
100%.
And there's movement all around, and players can kind of dictate their own career and what they want. I think it's the same thing within sales too. There's a lot of candidate mobility and rep mobility. So.
Oh man. You know what? So I wanted to save that conversation, but let's just dive right into that,
sure.
Man, because I think that you're 100% right. Like people feel like they're in the driver's seat a lot more, right?
Yeah.
And they can kind of dictate where they want to go,
Yep.
whether they want to launch a company, a personal brand, or just work for somebody for 20 years, right?
Yeah, it can go both ways, and I'm kind of the same way as an entrepreneur, and that happens to be a medical device and B2B and software sales recruiter too.
Yeah.
It's very mobile. I can do my job realistically from anywhere if I wanted to pack up and move, because essentially all you need is a laptop with 2 or 3 screens, depending on how many resumes you're looking at that day, and
nice.
and a cell phone with good service, and I think just really the will to talk to people and get it done and be a resource for them every day.
Love it, man. I love it, man. So you know what? Let's back up because
sure.
So you're from Orange County originally.
Yeah.
How was it growing up for you out there, man?
It was cool. I had 2 parents that loved me to death, and they're still together, and I love them.
Really good household.
Yeah, my dad. A lot of people don't know this because I don't look it, but my dad is actually from India, and he came here in 1979. And the first thing that he saw, believe it or not, was this tall, lanky kid who happened to be a point guard for the Lakers named Irvin Magic Johnson.
That's not a bad guy to see first. Yeah.
So he fell in love with basketball, and so he was, an IT guy, an engineer. He was, he wanted to come to America and start a family out here, and he met my mom. And the funny thing is that, I'm about 6'6" and so my parents are both under 6 feet.
Wow.
And so I don't look like either of them. When we go out in public, people think I'm adopted most of the time. But yeah, I'm half Indian. So, my parents are awesome. I have a little brother too. He's 23. So a little bit of an age difference, but great kid. So.
That's pretty cool though, man. I mean, so I'm, if you don't mind me kind of going there, I'm kind of surprised that your parents didn't kind of, push you to kind of take, that typical immigrant type of path, right? I mean, he actually pushed you towards basketball a little bit. Is that what you're saying?
Kind of. I didn't really start playing like seriously until I was in 8th grade. I grew from 5'8" to 6'2" in one summer. Jeez. And I've always had a size like 14, 15 shoe.
Yeah.
But I had it when I was like 11 years old or 12. So my parents and my hands were like the same size when I was like 12 years old, and they were thinking like, okay, he's got to grow into his body, or this is just going to be like awkward throughout his life. And knock on wood, I did. So
nice, man.
And then I went to a high school called Mater Dei. Okay. They produce a lot of Division I athletes every year for basketball, football, and baseball, and really serious
program then.
Yeah, it is. I mean, we played against LeBron in high school. We played against Carmelo Anthony. We played against Rajon Rondo. We played against there are a couple other guys. I think like OJ Mayo and Sean Livingston. A lot of guys that have either are the top 5 players now in the NBA. We played against Klay Thompson when he was at a rival high school, and so and
could you tell off the rip like these guys got the juice?
Some of them, yeah. Like LeBron, obviously, yeah. Carmelo, yeah. The one that impressed me the most, besides LeBron, was actually Rajon Rondo.
Really?
Yeah.
He seemed scrappy.
He was. Well, he at the time, this was 2004, he was 6'2", and he had about a 7-foot wingspan, I think, or 6'11" wingspan, and his hands were just like the size of, I think, almost Michael Jordan's hands.
Wow.
And I remember my best friend and I, we were on the bench. I didn't get to play very much, and hence the walk-on route. But I remember he dropped, I think, 24 assists against us, and his receiving guy on the other end was Josh Smith, the guy from the Clippers and the Hawks and the Rockets, and we kind of looked at each other like, okay, this dude's going to be like the guy at some point. And, and he's been a great point guard. So
100%, man. Yeah. And he's throwing it to like Josh Smith, who can jump out the gym.
Yeah, and now he's going to be throwing it to LeBron, who's just like a god at this point. So,
Seriously. I think it's really good for the city too, though, man. Just kind of seeing LeBron come through here. But okay, cool. So like you coming up as an athlete, were you more were you like always like the captain like back in high school of your team, or were you one of those guys like a natural leaders? Or
no, I mean, believe it or not, I didn't really get much of a chance to play. I was so I was at Mater Dei. I played varsity for 2 years out of my 4 years. I was actually recruited there. So like a lot of kids were, and so I didn't make varsity until my junior year. I was kind of blind to a lot of stuff. Like I never had a personal trainer. I never had a shooting coach. I never had any of this stuff. I just did stuff on my own and just played pickup. That's what I would always hear. Like a lot of guys in the off season play pickup games. And so I had a plan. My senior year, I didn't really get any playing time. So halfway through, I told my parents, I was like, hey, I'm gonna write over 150 letters and emails to colleges, and I'm gonna mail out like whatever game film I have from the summer league or from any of that stuff, like summer, high school ball and all that stuff. And a lot of programs ignored me and said no. But there was one program in Tucson, Arizona that happened to respond, and it was the University of Arizona. And so I got very fortunate. I mean, I always knock on wood every time I tell the story.
Dude, that's so cool, man. Yeah.
Because I feel like that was like the turning point in my life that really kind of helped mold me into like, what I feel like I can be in the next, what I've been fortunate enough to do, to write a couple books, but I have a long, long way to go in my career. And I feel like, getting that opportunity at University of Arizona, playing for a Hall of Fame coach and Lute Olson 2 out of my 4 years, like that's what molded me. And but to answer your question, I sat a lot in high school and I sat a lot in college as a walk-on. So,
but I mean, you know what though? I think it's a big difference when you're in the room with some greats though, like Hall of Fame coaches.
Right.
I mean, it's one thing to kind of, all right, you might not have been the stud on those great organizations, but you were around some serious athletes. and like some serious coaching toolage being put into.
Oh
right?
yeah, and I tell people every day. I mean, part of my job now. I mean, you're in device sales now. Is that I talk to. I think I was telling you this the other day through email that I talk to about 40 to 70 people a day, and they're meaningful conversations. Every single one of them, even if it's a voicemail, I still count that as something meaningful throughout the day. And I'll tell candidates when I'm prepping them, without giving too much away, or when they start a job, embrace the opportunity and it will embrace you back. And they'll ask me, like, where did you learn that from? And I'll say, Lute Olson. Yeah. And I say it with a lot of pride because, I mean, what he did for me, Joe, and how he changed my life was second to none, man. And so, so I just think being there, helping those guys get to the NBA, like Jared Bayless, Chase Budinger, who else? Marcus Williams, Jordan Hill, Mustafa Shakur. I mean, we had a ton of people. I mean, it's point guard you. And, and I was happy to say that I was never, an All-American. I was never Pac-10 Player of the Year, but I was All-Academic Pac-10, and I was a Scout Team All-American. So I felt like pushing those guys and helping them, getting them to the NBA was something I take a lot of pride in. I was there for 4 years.
I mean, man. So, I mean, like everything that you're telling me, I'm hearing like, man, this crosses over into sales so smooth. I mean, like even from you just getting your word out about, all your footage and then having the letters go out. I'm like, that sounds like someone going through like a straight sales process.
Yeah, no, it's crazy because when I was there and, a lot of times, like, especially at programs like Arizona, UCLA, Duke, North Carolina, Michigan State, like
top tier.
Blue Bloods. Yeah. Like the top 10 to 15.
Yeah.
Like, usually a lot of those walk-ons are recruited, but I recruited U of A in a sense. I recruited Arizona and Lute Olson. Like, and I would tell him that, like, hey, like, I sought you out because I wanted to learn from you. And he always thought that I wanted to go into coaching, and I never did because I don't have the patience for that. Yeah. But it was funny because when people were like, hey, like, I'll never forget the first day of one of our workouts. It was, I think, like fall of 2005. One of my teammates, he played in the NBA for I think like 6 or 7 years. His name was Hassan Adams. He played at Westchester High School, McDonald's All-American. Dude just jumps out the gym. And I remember we were both in the weight room at like I think 5:30 or 6 in the morning. He just kept looking me up and down. And finally I was like, what? And he was like, how did you get here? And I told him my story and he just started like laughing. He's like, man, I can't believe you just like kept writing letters and kept like reaching out. I said, yeah, dude. I said, I knew like I was talented enough to at least like be on a Division I team.
Yeah.
I just needed a chance. And it's like a candidate getting a chance, right? 100%.
So, respect that as well. But it's a process of growing into finding your niche and everything else, right? In sales.
Yeah, and so I did transition into Paychex, and I kind of had a unique situation when I was there. I got hired. The woman that hired me as my manager actually was, getting ready to give birth to her child, and she never came back.
Wow.
After that. She went to another company, and so I didn't really have a manager for the year and a half that I was there, and so. I tell candidates this all the time too, because I think having that Paychex background, it kind of helps.
It's great training though, right?
It's great training. Number one, it helped me look somebody in the face. It helped me to close. It helped me to, because I knew how to cold call already, but not like that.
Yeah.
And it helped me actually like shake someone's hand, feel confident after I closed the deal.
Right.
And just really kind of honor the sales process, which is what you want any rep to do at any company, whether it's payroll, medical, recruiting, whatever the industry is, software, right? I mean, and so, but I noticed like 2-3 months in, I was getting hit up by all these medical device recruiters.
Really?
Yeah. And so I was just like, hey, I just started this job and like I can't job hop because I don't want to be that guy.
Yeah. That looks bad, right? I mean,
it looks terrible. Yeah. Because I mean, trust me, I see about 400 to 600 resumes a week, and like. And whenever we see a job hopper that used to be at like an ADP, a Paychex, a Cintas, or those Fortune 1000 companies, I'm always thinking like, God, why didn't they just stay? Because they got some bad advice from some rep or a friend or maybe even another recruiter, and then it just backfires on them. And then it's hard because, I mean, you're a sales director. Like, I mean, if you wouldn't give a chance to a job hopper because if crap hits the fan,
they're out, man.
Are they going to be here in 6 months or are they going to leave?
Yeah.
And so I got hit up by all these medical recruiters, and I noticed that like there was a couple of them that were kind of stressed out every time they talked to me, but then there was this one guy that I talked to, and he was never stressed. He's one of my mentors, and his name's Russ Cipriani. He's part of Edwards Search Group up in the Bay Area.
Cool.
And great dude. And I just said, I was like, do you enjoy what you do? And he's like, yeah, I love it. He's like, I've been doing it he started 95, and this was 2012, and so he was doing it for 17 years at that point.
Wow. And
he just said, he's like, yeah, man. He said, I love connecting people. I love helping people. And he had told me, he said, if you love what you do, it'll love you back. And I was like, where have I heard that before? And then it kind of went back to the whole Lute Olson thing. And so I was enjoying being at Paychex, but I wasn't in love with it. I wasn't okay, I'm not going to stay here for 10 to 20 years.
Yeah.
And I had talked to my parents, and I was like, hey, I need to figure something out because I'm just not enjoying this job. And one of my best friends, his name is Dallas and Bimbo. He started a company called Kush Bottles. They do the bottling for the cannabis industry.
Oh, it's big, yeah.
It's
big deal.
I think they went public about a year or two ago.
Wow.
And he also started another company with his partner, Nick Kavisevich, called BigRents.com. It's think hotels.com, but for construction equipment.
Oh, smart.
Yeah. So so I would talk to these recruiters, and then I would talk to my my two friends. And I saw how these recruiters, because they were all independent small business owners.
Mm-hmm.
And my two friends, Dallas and Nick, we all played in basketball leagues together. We went out and kind of hung out together and ate dinner together. And I saw how they were communicating with each other. And I was like, that's pretty cool. And I was like, I'd love to do something like that, just on a smaller scale.
Entrepreneurial type of style. Yeah.
Yeah. And because they're very intense. Dallas they were both Division I hoopers like I was. So we all kind of had that in common. And that's how we became friends. We all met at the gym, and we played together. We kind of clicked, and it just kind of went from there. And, and I would tell them, I made some introductions for them at my gym to some people, and I made some introductions when we were in Vegas to a couple people, and and they could kind of tell I wasn't hurting, but I was just frustrated.
Yeah.
And I kind of asked my buddy Dallas, and he's one of my best friends. I'd take a bullet for that guy, and he would tell me he'd be like, what's wrong? And I was like, man, I see you guys talking, and I was like, I want to do something like that. And he's like, you're a connector. He's like, you got to figure out now how to monetize that. And he's like, that's your best bet. And that was all he said. And I tell people that is because, when you're starting off, you can, I didn't want to ask anybody for money. I'm not like that. I'd rather just work, bust my ass, and just go do it, but the advice that he gave me, he helped me put together a business plan. He helped me, we met a couple times a week for a month, and he just, whether it was just having lunch or me just going to his office and just kind of picking his brain, and he would be like, yeah, dude, just check this out, maybe tweak this, not that. And then I would show it to my dad too. I'd be like, hey, check this out. And I'd be like, there's something here. And as all this was happening, I was still at Paychex. I was being recruited by all these medical device companies. And this one recruiter, who she was recruiting for Olympus and Stryker at the time. She kept literally, she was just a barracuda. She was hounding me. And she kept saying, she was like, hey, if you're not interested, can you give me a list of, your coworkers that are interested? And I was like, I can't just ask these people. I was like, it's just weird. Yeah. And little did I know, everyone was looking to leave. And so, and because, it was Paychex is one of those jobs, just like ADP or Cintas. It's
a great learning ground.
It's a great learning ground, but there's three types of people that are there. There's the rep that gets really, really lucky out of college, falls ass backwards into a territory that's already booming. Yeah. And they wind up making 200-300 for 15 to 20 years. And then that's their career. That's their main career. And then they do something else. Then there's the rep that just doesn't want to be there. They're like, hey, I'm just here to just soak it all in, figure it out, and then go from there. And so that rep normally lasts a year to 18 months. Then there was the rep that was like me that really wanted to be there, but was thinking about the next step of his or her career. And that's the most common rep that I talk to every day. And this recruiter was telling me, she was like, hey, I'll make you a deal if you can refer me to, your Paychex reps that are looking for a job. I won't just give you a referral fee. I'll split the recruiting fee with you.
Wow.
So, and I was like,
she had you recruiting on the inside.
Yeah. And I was like, this lady's full of crap. Right? Yeah, I was like, come on, man. And so, and so I told her.
That's a smart play for recruiters, man.
Yeah. So I told her.
Is it a common play or no?
No, not anymore.
Okay.
The power of LinkedIn and job boards. Remember, this was 5.5, 6 years ago.
Okay.
So this is really before, I think LinkedIn was how it is now.
Yeah.
Because LinkedIn didn't even have hashtags, I think, up until a year ago.
That's true.
Or a year and a half ago. And so So yeah, I talked to a couple guys, and I didn't know that I was going to place like 6 or 7 people from my team, from some of the offices in LA out here. There was, I think, one rep in San Diego that I placed, a rep in Phoenix that I was at training with. Yeah. And so like, it was crazy how it all happened. And so, and you know, I wound up placing, I think it was like 6 or 7 total at Olympus and Stryker. A couple were in the Bay Area, like 2 were in Orange County. I think 1 was in LA.
Nice.
1 in San Diego, 1 in Phoenix, and 1 in Philly. And I remember when I got paid, I saw it and I was like, come on, this can't be real. I was like, because it was so cool. Like, I'd never seen something like that before. And I remember I started crying, and I was like, I literally like went home to my parents' place, and I was like, there's something here. And so I just said, I was like, I think I'm going to try this out. And I was like, I've saved up enough like to, you know, to take that risk and take that leap of faith. And, you know, I was like, I'm 25, 26. It's
perfect time to roll, man.
Yeah.
Roll the dice, you know.
And that's what my dad had told me. I'd move back home to save up some more money. And
smart play.
And he was like, if you're going to do it, he's like, do it now. He's like, put in your 2 weeks of paychecks. You've been there long enough. He's like, just hit the ground running with this. And so what I did was after, you know, my first year in recruiting, I was literally like sourcing for all these other recruiters that I'd met. And I just took it and ran with it until I started getting some of my own clients too. Man,
you know what? That's such a cool way to kind of get into it, man. And, you know, I'd imagine that one of the biggest struggles is trying to get salespeople, especially, to kind of almost stay focused on their jobs, because, everybody wants to have their own business these days, at least from a lot of things I hear, right? Are you seeing that?
No. Yeah, because I think with the power of social media now, because like at one point I did have Instagram. I had like the 14,000 followers because of the whole Arizona basketball stuff, but it was such a distraction from work. I got rid of it.
I was about to say, I didn't really see you on there like that. I mean,
and
that's cool, man. So you actually just kind of turn it off.
Well, I knew I was like, I need to be so focused. I got rid of that. I got rid of Facebook, got rid of Twitter, because I was like, there's no point to just me messing around here. Like, these are prime years that you want to like take that next step. And for me, I saw like my bar, the way I was raising it, or how high it was, besides my dad, was my best friend Dallas, or one of my best friends Dallas. I saw him and I was like, okay, if he's a year older than me and he's doing this, I was like, I need to get on his level someday, or at least something closer where he's like, yeah, you're on the right track. Like, where he can be like, hey, keep it going.
Right.
You know, so I kind of went, I don't want to say like I went dark, but like, or became a recluse, but like I just was so locked in. But I did have one thing, and it was LinkedIn. And that's, for me, like, that's all I needed.
That's the bread and butter for you guys now, right?
Yeah, because I think when I started, I had, I think like maybe 600 or 700 connections, and now I think I have like 22,000, and I have close to like 17 or 18,000 followers.
22,000 connections on LinkedIn.
Yeah.
Okay, so you're getting with everybody. That's smart though, man. I mean, because it just gives you like a much wider net to cast.
Yeah. Well, my LinkedIn is actually like, I mean, you've seen it. I mean, I joke with people all the time. It's literally a walking advertisement for like my book, my YouTube channel. I mean, I just released like sales recruiting videos too. And it's like, it kind of has to be. You have to build your own brand, like in this economy now. And but yeah, I mean, a lot of people don't know this, but my LinkedIn is actually like, it's all candidates. And because like I know it's like, okay, I'm targeting like A, B, C, and P, like D and people. Like, I want to blast it to everybody as much as sourcing for all these other recruiters that I'd met. And I just took it and ran with it until I started getting some of my own clients too. Man,
you know what? That's such a cool way to kind of get into it, man. And, you know, I'd imagine that one of the biggest struggles is trying to get salespeople, especially, to kind of almost stay focused on their jobs, because everybody wants to have their own business these days, at least from a lot of things I hear, right? Are you seeing that?
No. Yeah, because I think with the power of social media now, because like at one point I did have Instagram. I had like the 14,000 followers because of the whole Arizona basketball stuff, but it was such a distraction from work. I got rid of it.
I was about to say, I didn't really see you on there like that. I mean,
and
that's cool, man. So you actually just kind of turn it off.
Well, I knew I was like, I need to be so focused. I got rid of that. I got rid of Facebook, got rid of Twitter, because I was like, there's no point to just me messing around here. Like, these are prime years that you want to like take that next step. And for me, I saw like my bar, the way I was raising it, or how high it was, besides my dad, was my best friend Dallas, or one of my best friends Dallas. I saw him and I was like, okay, if he's a year older than me and he's doing this, I was like, I need to get on his level someday, or at least something closer where he's like, yeah, you're on the right track. Like, where he can be like, hey, keep it going.
Right.
You know, so I kind of went, I don't want to say like I went dark, but like, or became a recluse, but like I just was so locked in. But I did have one thing, and it was LinkedIn. And that's, for me, like, that's all I needed.
That's the bread and butter for you guys
yeah.
now, right?
Yeah, because I think when I started, I had, I think, like maybe 600 or 700 connections, and now I think I have like 22,000, and I have close to like 17 or 18,000 followers.
22,000 connections on LinkedIn.
Yeah.
Okay, so you're getting with everybody. That's smart though, man. I mean, because it just gives you like a much wider net to cast.
Yeah. Well, my LinkedIn is actually like, I mean, you've seen it. I mean, I joke with people all the time. It's literally a walking advertisement for like my book, my YouTube channel. I mean, I just released like sales recruiting videos too. And it's like, it kind of has to be. You have to build your own brand, like in this economy now. And but yeah, I mean, a lot of people don't know this, but my LinkedIn is actually like, it's all candidates. And because like I know it's like, okay, I'm targeting like A, B, C, and P, like D and people. Like I want to blast it to everybody as much as I can.
Is it harder to find jobs, or is it harder to find candidates right now?
I would say it's always both. It's
Yeah.
always a healthy mix of both. See, I'm more candidate driven. So like I'm, and I'm part of a network called First Interview Network. Any sales recruiter that's listening to this will know what that is. So basically it's a network of, I think it's like 500 to 700 medical, pharma, B2B, tech, like all these sales recruiters that are on there, and we're resources for each other. So, if you're recruiting for a position at ABC Medical Company, but you don't have time to fill it, you basically tell me like, hey Dave, like, can you take the lead on this? Like, and we'll
split it up.
Exactly. And so, like, and I have my own clients too. I mean, I have Stryker. I think we're on the vendor list for a couple other medical companies like Bard and a few of them. I mean, everyone is, right? So,
yeah.
And so, yeah, we've, I've gotten on a few of them. And so it's great because like I have my own clients and you can kind of do it both ways. And I did some B2B recruiting before as well. So I've seen kind of from different angles of the, seeing it through a different lens is what I'm trying to say. I'm seeing 100%. It from multiple lenses.
Man, you know what? That's really cool though too, man. Because having that experience to where you can loop it back to what your candidates are really dealing with, and being able to translate that and like through like experience though. Yeah, I mean, is like that's the real art form of it. Yeah, that I think a lot of people miss.
No, it's fun. I mean, I love to help people, and my goal every day is to, and I feel like sometimes I sound like R2D2 or like a robot because like I tell
you have a lot of conversations every day, man.
Yeah, because because I've had this YouTube channel for the last 2 years, and I'll say in every video you have to separate yourself from the competition. And when I tell candidates that, when I prep them, they start laughing. And I'm like, why are you laughing every time I say it? Like, you sound like your videos. And I'm like, oh, it's just like my mantra. It's like, hey, like I want to be different because I want to separate myself from every other person, every recruiter out there.
Man, you know what? I like what you're doing on like YouTube as well, though, man. I think it's almost like a double-edged type of source, right? Because you got some marketing, but you're also giving resources back to your actual candidates that you're looking at trying to place, right?
Yeah, and so we, so in the YouTube stuff, I mean, it kind of just happened a little over 2 years ago. I was thinking at first, I was like, okay, should I do like a podcast or should I do something different? And what happened was a candidate was telling me, he was like, I connected with a candidate, and he used to be in broadcasting, and he was like, man, he's like, I'm looking all over YouTube, and there's like no advice on the resume, no advice on anything. And I was just kind of was like, I was like, I could do that. I was like, I know how to be in front of a camera. I was like, I'm not shy. I was
got
like,
the broadcasting just coming right back.
I was like,
almost like full circle, man.
Yeah, I was like, if anything, I probably talk too much. And so, I mean, like it wound up kind of being like a great piece of advice from him. And so I just figured, I was like, well, I don't think anyone would like be mad at it or laugh at it because they know I'm trying to come from a position of helping people. Yeah. And that's always what I've been about. It's what I was about at Arizona. It's what I was about when I was at Paychex, helping people do their payroll. And it's what I'm about now as a recruiter every day. It's kind of like when Luke's in that X-Wing and he blows up the Death Star. You have one chance and you have one proton torpedo. You have one chance to wow the manager in an interview. And if there's multiple things on your resume about if you have like 4 jobs at one time, why are they going to hire you? Like, that's the big question I have to ask these people. And it's like, you have to tailor it so it looks like you're all in for this job or Medtronic or Bard, wherever the job is, right? Sure, yeah. And a lot of people just don't understand that. So, but to answer your question, yes, I'd probably say 20% or 30% of the candidates I talk to every day have some type of side thing that they're doing now.
Wow. Are you seeing companies thinking about trying to implement more side hustlers into their work? I mean, would they go through for that, or?
They'll make a note of it. Like if a manager falls in love, like if you're like, obviously you're a sales director, if you like fall in love with a rep and you're like, God, like this person's going to be our next President's Club winning rep, then maybe they'll overlook it. But it's kind of like the 80-20 rule. 80% of the time they're going to stick to the script.
100%.
Right. And 20% of that time they're going to be like, okay, maybe I'll go outside the box and maybe I'll hire Dave. Like if he's like, if his side hustle doesn't get in the way of what I'm doing. Like if I can give you an example.
Yeah, please.
Last year we placed a candidate. I won't say the medical company, but we placed her in Southern California at a medical company, and she runs some type of like side beach business on the side. And I made her take it off her resume. And I was like, make all the social media private, make it known that you are all in for this medical job. And I was like, do not bring it up in the interview. Just say it's maybe a hobby of yours. And, if they ask or if they Google something, and thankfully they didn't, but that's the thing. It's like you kind of, you run the risk of not getting a job, and it can be a huge problem sometimes.
I could totally see that, man. It is one of those things where I think at some point everybody has to make tough choices about what direction they want to head in. Yeah. I mean, you can kind of play with a couple different, ideas, but for so long, you really can't drag that out, right?
Yeah. I mean, and to give you an idea, Joe, too, like there's even other recruiters that I supply candidates to and that I, network with, like one of them came to me the other day about like a side hustle. And I was just like, if it has nothing to do with like recruiting or my vision of what I'm trying to do, like I'm not interested. Yeah. Because it's just like smart. Because if you have your hands in so many different cookie jars, like, I mean, you'll get a lot of different flavors. Yeah. And you'll see like which can be cool. But I mean, I'm not in the business of sampling stuff. Yeah. You know what I mean? I'm not seriously. Sure. I mean, like I'm in the business of picking one flavor and sticking to that and making that the best flavor possible.
Man, I can tell that you've been trained under some great people though, bro.
Oh, thanks.
I mean, seriously though, man, because to me, I mean, whether it's through your father or, or your parents coming up and they kind of helped you kind of focus. But I think a lot of times so many of us get the ADD, and I talk to my guys about that as well. Yeah. It's so easy to do it, man. I mean, we got Facebook, you can launch a business for less than $1,000, within 5 hours. And
I'll tell you this, not sorry to interrupt.
No, man, this is how it's supposed to go.
There was a candidate, we were talking the other day, a candidate was in the Bay Area, and the candidate found me on Instagram, and he's like, I'm surprised you only have like 200 and something followers. I was like, my thing is LinkedIn. And he's like, oh, you have almost 20,000 on there. I said, yeah. And so I was like, but I said, I'm providing I feel like I provide value in every posting, whether it's a YouTube posting, an article, we can discuss it. And he told me something from this guy named Gary Vaynerchuk. Yeah. He said if you want to grow your Instagram page, you have to post like 9 things a day or something, or 9 to 10 things a day and like short videos. And I told him, I said, I did not become a recruiter to grow my Instagram page. I said, I became a recruiter to help people get to their next step of their career and connect them with the right people.
Man.
Keep going. And that was it. And we kind of like disagreed on it back and forth in a healthy way. But but to give you an idea, it's like the candidate was also telling me, he's like, well, in my head, he's like, my big dream would be to just be like an Instagram person. I was like, that's wonderful. But I said, keep that to yourself and don't tell the manager that.
100%, man. I mean, look, yeah, man. Right? Don't tell the manager that, dude.
Yeah, right.
I mean, because it's so easy for, I think, a lot of people to really fall into that trap of just kind of wanting to get Instagram famous or just have a lot of followers. Because the perception is that, these lucrative deals will follow after it. But, I think the more that people start to understand about what business they really want to be in. Yeah. And, how just clear lines, how do you want to make your money?
Yeah. And
if you're doing it for charity, cool, call it that.
And what happens is that, because we had this happen to us too. We had a candidate get an offer back in February, and the candidate got it rescinded. The candidate had 50 to 60,000 followers on Instagram and would not make it private. And there were a lot of risque photos on there. I'll just leave it at that. And the manager saw that and was like, no. And we had told the candidate specifically, make it private. So that way they have nothing on you. Mm-hmm. Because I was like, it's 80-20 rule, right? I mean, 80% of these managers are still, maybe baby boomers or Gen X, before millennials.
Right.
So they're going to stick to the script. And all they care about, they don't care about how many likes you got on a picture. They don't care about, how many comments you got saying DM me. All they care about is is Joe, is Dave, is, ABC candidate, are they going to exceed the quota and make me look good to my manager?
100%.
People see these Instagram famous people and they see like what they have. I personally think a lot of them just buy followers, to tell you the truth.
Oh,
and so, because that's, I mean, at least from what I've seen,
that's happening all day.
And people get enticed by that. And they're like, I want that life. And it's like, you don't understand. It's like their reputation is not what you think it is. And it's like, because I hear Earl Nightingale say this, and I love that guy because there's so much like wealth in what he says. He says, sales is the world's most successful career if you're good at it and if you know where you're going. And that's such a powerful statement, because until I hear Instagram is the most successful career or Twitter is the most successful career, if you're good at it and if you know where you're going, I'm not touching any of that to help like my small business out.
I think a lot of people love Gary Vee, and I do as well. I'm like a
he's
big
great.
time Gary Vee guy. But you have to look at what business he's in.
Yeah, he's
in the marketing industry.
He's in the marketing industry, and he basically was one of the first people 10 years ago to kind of put himself out there on YouTube.
Yeah.
And basically say like, hey, this is what we do, and he, and word of mouth spread, and he has his own way of doing things, right? I mean, and it works for him, but that way doesn't work for 95 or 99% of the people out there. 100%. It works for like a celebrity, an athlete, an influencer like a Tony Robbins or someone like Gary Vaynerchuk, and that's it.
It might not be the time for you to try to blow up as a Instagram person or this other type of big type of like personality brand,
right?
If you're not ready for it,
right.
If the timing's off,
right? Yeah, and I think that's the big mistake a lot of people make, is that they want to, which is cool. I mean, like I'm all for it, and I'm all for supporting people doing their dream, because I mean, I tell people all the time, like I never thought, because I'm looking at my book right there sitting at the edge of your table, and I'm like, I never thought, 2 years ago that I would be a recruiter that wrote a book. And it kind of happened. I feel fortunate enough to have it. But at the same time, like book, no book, YouTube channel, whatever. Like, I mean, I'm in love with this because I get to help people. And it's like you get to make a difference, and you're dealing with someone's livelihood, which is their career. And like, and I know in my head, like getting back to, like knowing what you want.
Yeah.
Like, the other stuff doesn't matter. It's like just being able to be a resource to people. And I think, being able to help them every day, like that to me means a lot.
So why'd you write the book, man? I'm curious.
You want to know the story?
Yeah, please.
I guess it's Saturday. We got time.
It is a Saturday, man.
So, all right. So I'm not going to bring in the candidate's name that told me to do this,
okay.
But so 2.5 years ago, we were filling jobs at, I'll say, a top 10 medical company out in Phoenix. And it was a kid that had just graduated, I think a year earlier. And he was from University of Arizona. He grew up in Tucson. And he, and I didn't know this, like he had been to a bunch of our home games. And we connected on LinkedIn, and he applied for a job on, I think it was like ZipRecruiter or one of the job boards that I used, like LinkedIn at the time. And he was like, hey man, he said, super random. He said, I came across your job posting. He's like, I'm interested. And he's like, by the way, he's like, I knew a guy named David Bagga that played at University of Arizona. Not sure if you're the same guy. And I just started laughing. I was like, it's not a very common name. I don't think, unless you're in India, then it's like Smith over there. But
okay.
So I called him. I said, yeah, like I'm the dude that played at Arizona. He's like, yeah. He's like, you're Bagga. I said, no. I was like, you can just call me David, because being an athlete, you get last named all the time. And,
right.
And so he had told me, we wound up having like a 45-minute conversation and about the job. And then he said, hey, he's like, can you prep me for an interview if I get an interview? So fast forward 2 days later, I get an email from him. He's like, hey, I have an interview with, ABC Medical Company. I said, okay, great. And he's like, do you have any prep material? And I was like, actually, yeah, I got about 35 pages of it that I have notes and bullet points and do's and do nots. And he's like, yeah, man. He said, he's like, it's cool because he's like, you're a younger guy. And he's like, all these other like recruiters I'm dealing with, they don't have any prep material. They don't have anything. They just kind of talk to me for 10 minutes and they just like, it's click on to the next one. And then I gave him all this prep material, and unfortunately he didn't get the job. But right after his final interview, when he didn't get the job, like he had called me and he said, hey man, he said, I sent this to 3 or 4 of my friends, wow, and they all got hired at another company.
Wow.
And he said, it was all because of your prep material. And I was like, oh wow. I was like, really? And he said, yeah. He's like, he's like, you're the only one that's like really kind of like helped me out like this entire time. He's like, you're like this millennial sales recruiter.
All right, that's cool, man.
And I was like,
he
what?
actually branded you that. Okay.
He literally told me that over the phone. No joke. Like, and I tell people this all, like, when they ask, I tell them, like, they're like, how did this all happen? And I'm like, well, it's kind of a little unique story. And he's like, yeah, he's like, you're like this millennial sales recruiter. And I was like, and so I wrote it down. I was like, millennial sales recruiter. I was like, what the hell is this kid talking about? And he's like, man, he's like, you know, it's crazy. He's like, I have your first book. He's like, I have your book, The Walk On, at my parents' house. He's like, it's on my parents' coffee table. And he's like, you signed it for me back in 2010 at the book signing in Tucson. I was like, wow. I was like, this dude is like a nice guy. And so, and I was like, I owe this guy like lunch if I ever get out to Scottsdale or go back to Tucson again. And I just said, I was like, let me ask you, I said, like, what made you like say that? And he's like, well, you were the only one to like really care and prep me for every interview. He's like, you even prepped me to take a personality test. He's like, no one's ever done that before. And I said, well, you kind of just have to slow down. And long story short, so I literally, what I did was I took the rest of the day off. It was like a Friday, I think at 3 p.m. And it was around this time 2 years ago in 2016. It was like June of 2016. So I'd taken that Friday off. It was really hot. And I just Googled medical device sales books. And then I saw a couple, like there's one by another mentor of mine. You might have heard of this guy. His name's Tom Ruff. He runs
okay.
Yeah, he's been in the industry for like 25 years. He wrote I think like How to Break into Pharmaceutical Sales, a Headhunter Strategy. So we read that when I was at Arizona.
Wow.
And so and he's one of my mentors too, and he's a great guy. And so I saw that and I was like, okay, Tom Ruff has his book, and I was like, okay. And I was like, there's really nothing for like young people here. Like for specifically millennials. And I was like, okay, I think there's something here. So I immediately and I'm super close with my family. So when I run something by someone, it's usually my dad, and then I'll run it by my friend Dallas. I'll be like, hey man, what do you think? Yeah. And if they're saying like, no, do not waste your time, like then I'm like, okay, let me think about it, then I probably won't do it. But as soon as I told both of them, they were just immediately like, yo, you got something here. And the original title was going to be called Your Guide to Breaking into Medical Device Sales, and it was going to be called A Millennial Strategy. But
it's not bad too, though.
Yeah, no, I mean, both titles like had legs underneath it, and so. But I had an idea. I had seen, I think it was like either like Tony Robbins or one of those people like holding a sign about like finance or like your life or something. You know how those inspirational people are. And, and so we were thinking of like a book cover title and like all that stuff. And I told my mom, I was like, what if we made a sign that said millennials? And I was like, I'm holding it and I am a millennial. And I said, I was like, then it could be called A Millennials Guide to Breaking In. I think we kind of tweaked it. First it was going to be called The Millennials Guide. And I was like, how about A Millennials Guide to Breaking into Medical Device Sales? And so I talked to a guy that had written a book. He was based out of, I think, Utah. It was a technology book. And he was like, who's your audience? And I said, millennials. He's like, keep it short. He's like, you're a millennial. He's like, you know this. He said, if I handed you my book and it's a 250-page book, he's like, it's going to put you to sleep. I said, probably. And he said, but it works. He's like, it's all about engineering and all this stuff. And it was about like tech, I think like software engineering or computer engineering. And he said, my advice would be keep it under 90 pages or keep it under 100. And he said, make it an easy read, make it something that's like, make it something that's like fun and like that's easy for these people to relate to. So like I talked to my dad again, I talked to my friend Dallas again, and I was like, here's what I'm thinking. And so we like kind of laughed at it at first. And then like when I showed them, like I had like a picture of just me holding a cardboard sign like that. And I had written out with a Sharpie, it said millennials. And I was like, my hair is normally shorter, but it's like I had like my regular haircut and I had like a beard and I was in like a tank top, and we were just like couldn't stop laughing. And I was like, no, but I was like, dude, it's going to say A Millennial's Guide to Breaking into Medical Device Sales. I said, I'm going to put like the Millennial Sales Recruiter Presents and like up top. And I said, it's going to be kind of cool. I said, it's just like a how-to guide on how to get into medical device. And I said, it's pretty easy.
Which is tough for a lot of people too, though, man.
Right.
Yeah.
And
it took me about a year worth of pushing hard.
Yeah.
Trying to get into it.
Right. And so he was like, dude, he's like, I think you have something here. And I said, okay. I was like, so, and I was already like 2 YouTube videos in. So okay. I'd started that. And at first, if you look like back in the channel, it says like the sales recruiter. Yeah. And so, but then once we were going to start doing this, we called it the Millennial Sales Recruiter. And so, I mean, again, like it was, I never thought this would come out of it. Sure. Because like, you get in, you start your own business. You never think you're going to write a book. I mean, because writing a book is, it's a long process. And I mean,
how long did it take you to kind of write it up?
About a year.
Okay.
And I spent literally every weekend, and no joke, people say this all the time, and I used to think that they were full of crap until I actually did it. Every weekend I wrote it in my underwear. Seriously.
So you just wake up and say, all right, I got to put some pages out.
Yeah.
I
would wake up, I'd go play basketball, I'd come home on Saturday, take a nap for like an hour, and then I'd bust out a chapter or two. Because only, I think, like 10 chapters in here. So it took the whole thing took a year all in, like to write it, edit it, get the photos done. We had to do the photo shoot actually 3 times because I was late to 2 of them, and which is, the recruiter was late, so it never looks good. And then on a couple of the photos that we loved, the lens was closed.
Wow.
So he was like, hey, you got to come back because the pictures are not here. And I was like, why? He's like, the lens was closed. And so, but it was meant to be when it came out at the right time. It was summer of last year. I mean, I wanted to make a splash. And it was crazy too, because when I posted the picture on LinkedIn, I think I got like 200 something likes, and I got like over 110,000 views.
Wow.
And so I knew, I was like, okay, it made an impact.
Yeah.
Like that's what I wanted to do. And it was cool. We had a book launch. We had, there was like 50, 60 people there. Some of the candidates that I had placed showed up, which was kind of cool. Like there was a manager that showed up, which was fun. But
super cool, man.
Thanks. Yeah, I mean, I'm working on the next one. Thank you. Like,
Are you?
Yeah.
Already?
And,
all right,
yeah,
cool.
It'll be for like 2021, like around that time.
I mean, so this is something that you want to keep moving into, though. I mean, you want to keep creating more content like this, and
like I want to update this one because when because the old company name was called Sirion, and then it became David Bagga Company once we met with some people, and they were just like, hey, you
personal branded.
Yeah, you got to change it to this because they're like, this is what people know now, and like this is what they think of when they think of like medical device, and they look at their book. They don't think of Sirion, they think of David Bagga, like this is his book, and they were like, okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
And so yeah, we kind of last year around this time we kind of rebranded everything, and I think. And I hope too, if there's other recruiters that hear this that want to branch out on their own, like even if it helps one person, like that's the main goal, right?
Right.
Even if you can help somebody. And so, and so the next step that I wanted to do was, and we just released these, what was it, 3 weeks ago, was professional sales training videos.
Okay.
So I know you were talking about the YouTube channel. I know, and I've gotten a lot of questions about it the last like couple weeks on LinkedIn. Is that if you look on it now. There was about 85 videos. There's like 40 because we took the ones that were,
cleaned it up a little bit.
Yeah, we gave it a haircut, which I'll probably have to get in a little bit too. So, but yeah, I mean, like, because I have basically I have a video training program, a 31 step, visual guide on how to break into medical too.
Man, you know what, man? So, all right, let's talk about the current state of like sales training.
Yeah.
Because I feel like sales is in this transition as well, man.
Yeah.
It's in this I mean, it's really kind of growing. And I think a lot of the tactics that were used, especially from the 90s, early 2000s, it's total shift in how the market operates and almost really engages with like salespeople, right?
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, like I think that sales is changing so much because now everything's digital.
Right.
So if you're going to post something on LinkedIn, it has to be value.
Mm-hmm.
I say that because I'm being a former athlete. I'll post a picture of me. Like I posted a 4th of July picture and it was me and 6 or 7 of my friends playing basketball. But the one thing we all had in common was that we were all in sales. And I put that in the picture. And so it didn't look like I was trying to put something like weird on there on LinkedIn, because you know how people on LinkedIn can get. But when it comes to like posting stuff now, it's like it has to be value driven. Like what value are you providing? Like if you work at ADP and you're posting, anytime I see a rep post a President's Club like picture, that means to me that they're about to look for a job.
100%.
And if they post an award on there, it's like, oh, I'm blessed to win this rep of the year or that rep of the year. I know. It's like, okay, Joe's looking. Now it's time to in-mail this guy.
Yeah.
And like, hey man, like, we talked last year. Like, let me know if you need any help. And so, but if you're posting just stuff like buy my device or buy my payroll or buy my book, people aren't going to go for that.
Right.
And so you have to provide value. And that's at least what I've learned, because I think it's different if you post as a recruiter versus if you post as a sales rep, because I'm posting job after job after job, and I post a lot of articles too. And
which is great value though, right? I mean, because
I want to start a debate. I want to start a discussion like, hey, like, you know what? Like, I mean, I'm a millennial. I get judged. I mean, look, for me, my goal every week when I'm working, one of them, like I have a long list of goals, and I have like my short-term goals is like, okay, this week I want to be taken, you know, obviously one of them is to be taken seriously every week too, as a not just a recruiter, but as a millennial, because we get a bad rap, you know. I mean, you're a millennial. It's like, I mean, you know, people think that all we care about is making a quick buck, getting how many likes we can on Instagram.
It's all about the likes, man.
It's all about the likes and the status updates. And it's like, and it's for me, it's like, okay, I'd rather provide value. So it's like when these people get in a job interview, someone like you as a manager is scratching your head because you don't know who to hire because they're that good, not because you're so upset at the quality of candidate. Like that's what's been going on the last, like I'd say 5 to 6 years now.
Wow.
And so we need to, you know, recalibrate that.
Man, you know, how do you pick out people that have the it factor? I saw one of your actual videos.
Yeah.
And you were kind of talking about that a little bit, man. I mean, because whenever you're looking at someone during the whole hiring process, looking at resumes, and you can't. I mean, it's like
you can't tell.
No, man.
Yeah, you have to see them in person.
Yeah, you have to. I mean, at least for me, anyway.
Yeah. See, I'm a little different because I believe in giving everyone a chance. So that's why I get, you know, a lot of people question that, and I've talked at conferences about this too. I was at a conference called MedTech Monday, and someone brought up the it factor. They were like, and it was the same question. It was a research analyst at a medical device company, and she said, "I saw your video on the it factor," and she said, "You know, how do you see that in people when you're on the phone?" I said, and I told her, I said, "I believe in giving everyone a chance because we all have the same tools and the same capabilities, right?
Yeah.
Like, but it's the people that apply that stuff in the interview process. That's who you're going to be able to tell has it and who doesn't." And for me personally, I know that I can tell right off the bat if they let me prep them and if they let me at least help, then I know it's like, okay, they want it bad enough or they care. If a rep like just doesn't answer their phone or they think like, oh, this is just another interview and I'll breeze through this, I know it's like, yeah, they don't care.
Right.
They don't have it. I mean, they do, but they're not going to use it in the interview and they're not going to pull that it factor out of them.
100%, man. I mean, man, you know what? I really feel like you have to test it in some way. You know, I mean, like whether that's through, are they going to answer once I pick up, or will they call me right back? One of the two, you know.
Or if we give them an assignment to do, like, hey,
Bingo.
like, you know, why don't you reach out to Joe on LinkedIn and why don't you email him about what it's like working in his area of medical device and what he says, because tell him you're interviewing with this company and you need some advice and you need just his stamp of approval. And if they don't do it, then we know it's like, okay, they're not serious. They don't have, and that's part of having the it factor is like, are you serious enough to actually follow these steps?
Really cool, man. Man, love it, man. All right, man. So I want to kind of go back to a couple more things, and we're going to wrap up in a little bit here, man. But, I mean, I would love to know what your thoughts are on the future of outside sales reps, because a lot of companies are building inside teams.
Right.
And you're seeing a lot less people in the field traveling because the whole expenses to kind of move people around. What are you kind of seeing like in the whole marketplace?
Well, medical device, you have to travel because like you have to go to a hospital. I mean, unless everything becomes like video conferencing, which I don't think that would be the case, but
people tried it and I don't think it really took off.
Yeah. And so I think, I mean, it's kind of like what we talked about earlier, like that rep mobility. Mm-hmm. Like, I think that, I think it's going to go one of two ways. I think that reps, I mean, because remember, you have to really be a barracuda to want to be outside in the field all day, you know, for 8 to 10 or 8 to 11 hours a day. Yeah. I think for an industry like medical device, I don't really see it changing seismically too much unless a doctor or the decision makers say like, hey, Joe, like tell your rep, you know, they can just, video us in and we can say yay or nay, because they need to be able to touch and feel and like demonstrate the devices in a case.
100%.
And you can't do that as an inside sales rep. You can't, I mean, you just can't. Mm-hmm. Software is different. Recruiting is different. Yeah, you can work remote. You can, as a rep, you can work from home, when you're not in the field. But I think medical device, I mean, I don't see the outside sales factor changing. I see maybe more reimbursements instead of like a car package or, something like that. Mm-hmm. I see maybe like instead of saying like, hey, the base is 65 to 70 plus like $800 a month for your car, maybe it's just a flat base, and then whatever your expenses are, you get reimbursed. So maybe it's easier. Maybe it'll save companies more money. Mm-hmm. But these reps have to be out there like getting face time.
It's good to know, man.
Yeah, that's how they're going to win. That's how they're going to win the sale.
So, are you seeing more people, or because a lot of times with like these different accounts, people kind of find a couple key accounts and they lock in, and then they just farm the crap out of it.
Yeah,
you know.
Yeah.
Are you seeing more hunters coming up or more farmers being?
I'm seeing more farmers. A lot of people don't want to prospect anymore. And it's unfortunate because, like, I, for one, love prospecting because...
It's the bread and butter, isn't it, man?
Yeah, because for
really
me,
separate you.
Yeah, I mean, and look, first of all, I mean, we're all awkward, right?
Of course.
And, like, I'm super awkward. And so
you both are, yeah.
Yeah, so, like, for me, like, I can make it, like, that's how you can have fun with it. I mean, one of the regional managers at Paychex when I was there, he even said, like, he would just be like, yeah, like I used to make cold calling so awkward it became fun. And that's what I do on the phone every day. It's like, I mean, because at the end of the day, it's like, it's just talking to people. But but to answer your question, like about hunting and farming, like I love prospecting because the 3 words that to me that changed like for my career when I heard this before I jumped into like, you know, running a small business was you never know. Mm-hmm. And you never know how that call is going to go. You never know how, you know, that sales meeting is going to go. Like you might think like, okay, they're going to deny me again. And then they're like, hey, we have a deal.
Right.
And you're never going to know that unless you pick up the phone, unless you walk through the door, unless you know, kind of put your ego aside and just do it.
100%.
And so I think like, you know, that type A hunter mentality is like, I hope that doesn't go anywhere because when I hear all this stuff about AI and artificial intelligence,
yeah.
I mean, which is exciting.
Social selling as well, right? But people trying to use that.
I mean, no, I use it. I mean, I use it every day. I mean, through LinkedIn.
That's
I mean,
right.
when I'm posting jobs, right? I mean, even through MedReps, and that's all part of social selling too. But I think at the same time, prospecting is something that, I mean, it's just such an art. Like you have to like embrace it if you're going to be a sales rep.
I agree, brother. I mean, you know, it's one of those things where I think that prospect, like. I think I heard this on one of your videos too, talking about the person that really prospects and that can really go out and kind of fend for themselves. Mm-hmm. I mean, that person's untouchable for the most part because they can always go drum up some more business elsewhere, right?
I mean, real. If we want to be real with each other, I mean, like we're all expendable, right? I mean,
everybody.
I mean, everybody is. Doesn't matter whether you're LeBron James or one of us. Like I mean, we're all expendable. If something happens, it's like, I mean, you know, that's just how the world works, and that's how business works, and especially in sales. But like, and this is something that that my friend Dallas and Bimbo says is that if you have the will versus the skill, if you have the will every single day to come back, even if crap hits the fan. I mean, I think I remember, what was it, like 8 or 9 months ago? I think in like early February, I think right after the Super Bowl, like, you know, I was filling a job in Philly. And I remember all these candidates were just not picking up their phones for like 2 weeks straight. And I remember thinking
celebrating,
like Super Bowl hangover.
Yeah.
And so, and then I just remember kind of sitting there and I was scratching my head. I was like, God, I need to go work on something else because I'm going to just spin my wheels. And I remember, you know, the next week, I think I must have had like probably 40 or 50 callbacks from all these reps that I'd prospected to. And again, it's like if you're willing to just put the work in, and if you think like, God, like, you know, it's not going to work because no one's answering their phone, there's always the next call, and there's always the next cold call or the next like prospecting call, and that's the fun part of it, right?
100%.
Yeah. So
I love that, man, too. Will over, I mean, like, really, it is kind of will over skill. I mean, I would take that guy who's willing to work and willing to learn. Yeah. You know, every day of the week of the person that already has it.
Yeah, because, you know, I mean, like, I think that, and that's why I love people so much. I mean, look. Yes, there is a prototypical path into medical device sales. I'm not going to get into it here because it's in one of my sales training videos. So nice. I want to help people like get in through that way too. But I also know I have a lot of respect too, Joe, for the people that were like personal trainers and they got into medical device, or the people, or the people that took like the Robert Frost path, like the road less traveled, and like they went in that way because it's like your respect for them goes up because it's like. Somewhere along the line, something they pulled out of themselves, or a manager was like, hey, like he or she has it and we're going to embrace that, and they're going to embrace us, and maybe that rep is a President's Club rep, or or it opened the door for something else. Mm-hmm. And that's but that person has the will. Yeah.
Love it, man. I love that, man. You know, especially mentally, right?
Yeah. And I'll tell you this too, before we wrap up, like, you know, you'd made a comment earlier, you said that I jumped into this industry without any experience. Yeah. A lot of people don't know this, but I interviewed at a couple recruiting companies before I jumped into this, and they didn't hire me.
Interesting.
And I won't say who they are. Yeah. They were 2 of them, well known in Orange County. And I remember they just said, they were like, hey, like you're a little too like aggressive for like what we look for. And then I remember, you know, I kind of took that and I was like, okay, it just wasn't meant to be, because I was going to use it as training for a year first, and then kind of go out on my own.
Do your thing regardless,
Yeah, but I mean, like, this way too is way more fun, because I think that, and I learned this from I feel like he should have been here with me, but one of my best friends, Dallas and Bimbo, like like if you want to do something, just do it. Yeah. Like, it's like the Nike slogan, right? It's like, just do it. I mean, if you feel like you can be good at it, and if you have a goal and a vision, like, just do it. Like, I mean, even if you fail at it, like, find other ways to succeed.
100%.
You know, if you hit the wall, like, go around it, go above it, go through it, go under it, go do something, right? Mm-hmm. So, and that's kind of like, you take that like attack mentality, right? So,
I mean, man, you know what? I have to say, though, I think that you have a great foundation laid for yourself. I mean, I wasn't looking long. I mean, so I'm not going to say I was doing this extensive research, but I tried to just find out who's doing what all throughout the actual industry. I like this industry as well. And it's like, just trying to find good people is tough, man.
Yeah.
I mean, like, I mean, I threw up a couple of different job posts for our actual company, and it's, you know, you get a couple resumes coming through, but it's nothing crazy.
Yeah.
I mean, you got to pay for that type of traffic normally, or you got to do something else. And I'm just like, it's difficult to meet good people, period, man. So I like what you're up to, man.
Thank you very much.
So, all right. Right before we wrap up, I have this question that I ask everybody.
Okay.
I live by this motto called the Triple G motto.
Okay.
It's growth, grit, and give.
Okay.
And how would you put those G's in order for yourself?
Growth, grit, and give. Yeah. For me, it would probably be always giving first, just because, like, I love to help people. And then grit would be because that's, you know, a former athlete. So, and then growth after that.
Love it.
Because, I mean, again, this whole recruiting industry, it's like, you know, I mean, whether I'm talking to a manager or another recruiter, like, you know who cares and who doesn't.
Yeah.
And so that's, I mean, you're dealing with human beings too. It's not like we're not selling a product like you and your reps are.
Yep.
We're dealing with human beings and human lives. And so I'm selling a service and a livelihood too. It's like, when you're talking to the rep that's at ADP or Paychecks and they're making, you know, 5 figures and they want to make 6 figures and then they hit it and then they call you, it's like it makes your whole day. And even if you don't make $1 off that, it's like, that's still like you made an impact. So it's like the giving part for me is huge. And then the grit, I think about that Under Armour commercial that Tom Brady says, like, you know, every single day, like, no matter what, like, you come back every single day, like, in, like, you know. And then the growth is like, hey, like, where do I want to be at in the next 2 to 5 years? And I think, you know, in terms of the grit thing, it's funny because, like, I'm a huge superhero fan. And I'll say this before we go. I got in trouble by YouTube because I used the Marvel theme on some of my videos, like the intro theme, so I can't do that anymore. But I'll never forget what Captain America says in Avengers Age of Ultron. He's like, hey, he's like, you know, we're going into the black here. He's like, we're facing a robot army. And he's like, you know, he's like, if you're hurt, if you're hurt, he's like, just keep going. He's like, if you die, he's like, shake it off. He's like, just don't, it doesn't matter. So and I'm thinking, like, you know, it's funny, but it's so true.
It's life.
It's like, man. It's life. It's like, okay, look, if you get the door slammed in your face, like, go prospect to the next one. And whoever gives you a chance, like, then you do your best to deliver. Because those are the ones that are going to be like, hey, like, this dude, like, we gave him an opportunity and he came through. And it's, I mean, that's just, you know, that's my mentality, because it's like, you can't, like, get down in the dumps. But that's where I think, like, the grit for me would stand. Mm-hmm. And then the growth is like I was saying, like, where do you want to be at in X amount of years?
100%,
just go
man.
do it.
Dude. Well, David Bagga, man, I got to say, this has been such a pleasure, man.
Likewise.
I think that the whole industry needs this type of conversation, because in sales, a lot of times it's the ego that kind of comes up and it's very, you know, look at me, go close it still. But I love when I talk to, you know, people that are in the field and they're transparent enough to say, hey, you know, that door is going to get closed in your face.
Yeah.
You know, it is coming, you know.
Yeah.
I mean, but what do you do next?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so it's not that you give up, but it's just that, you know, you have enough perspective to kind of say, all right, 360, I got some wins, I got some losses, but I love the process.
Yeah, you have to, man. I mean, like, it's fun. I mean, the whole, like, win your sales career doesn't mean that you're making $1 million, $2 million every year. It means that, to me, what that really means, and like, and I mean, I could write a book on that whole phrase alone. I feel like, man. Now. And
because actually we like that hashtag. It's a good one, man.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, no, I mean, to me, like, what it means is, like, when you win your sales career, it means that, I think, number one, you're doing something that you love. You're doing something that you're happy. And number two, like, you're seeing something that you're building. And that's, like, whether you change jobs or not, but, like, you're seeing the journey, like, that you're building. And that's what the whole phrase means.
Right.
It doesn't just mean getting a job, winning a job. Yeah, that stuff is cool. Or selling your product or hitting President's Club. That's great. I'm sure it's a great feeling.
Right.
But the whole winning your career thing means that like every day that you're attacking the day and you're ruling yourself. And like, that's like the most fun part, I think.
100%, man. Well, man, tell everybody how to find you, whatever websites and like,
Yeah, LinkedIn is obviously
the
main. I mean, I am on Instagram. It's David Bagga Company. I'm on LinkedIn too. You can just find me under the name David Bagga. And then I have my own website, which is davidbagga.com. And then I'm on the YouTube. I'm on YouTube as well. The channel's called The Millennial Sales Recruiter. But the videos now that I'm going to be doing on there are going to be just breaking down articles. Just because, like, ever since the sales training video came out, that's part of our business now too. So we're trying to ramp that up as well.
Love it, man. I love it, man. Well, you know what, man? Thank you so much for coming on the Real Value Exchange again.
No, this is great. Thanks for having me, Joe.
Really appreciate it. And just like that, it's a wrap. So I want to thank everybody for staying tuned in to the Real Value Exchange. Please go out, rate it, subscribe, and hit up David. Let him know that you found about his services through the podcast. And if you're looking to break into the industry, anything medical device related, he's a great resource. So with that said, guys, stay tuned to the next episode.